Hey, welcome back to English in Fluency. I'm your host, Alex, and I want to start today's episode with something a little different. Before we get into anything else, I want you to just listen for a second. Don't try to translate. Don't try to write anything down. Just listen. I'm going to say something, and I want you to notice how it sounds. Ready? Okay, so, I was thinking, like maybe we could, it's just that sometimes, conversations just kind of flow. And that's the whole point, right? Did you catch all of that? Could you understand me? Maybe you got most of it. Or maybe a few words confused you. That's completely okay. That's actually why we're here today. Because those little words, like, kind of, sort of, right? Those are called fillers. And they are everywhere in real spoken English. They show up in interviews, in conversations between friends, in meetings, on podcasts, in movies, in classrooms. They are absolutely unavoidable. And if you don't know what they are, or why speakers use them, they can seriously mess up your listening comprehension. So, today, we're going to fix that. Together. Right here. By the end of this episode, fillers are going to feel a lot less scary, and you are going to feel a lot more confident when you hear them in real speech. This episode is called B1 English Listening Practice. Understand how speakers use fillers naturally. Stay focused while listening. And I designed this entire episode to help you do exactly that. We are going to talk about what fillers are, why native speakers use them so much, how to recognize different types of fillers in real speech, and how to train your brain to stay focused and calm even when you hear them coming at you. We will also do listening practice together, multiple times, right here in this episode, with real conversations and monologues that are full of natural, organic filler use. So by the time we are done, you'll have a real skill. Not just some theory, not just a list of words to memorize, a genuine, usable listening skill that will help you in real conversations, in real situations, in the real world. All right, let's go. Let me start by asking a very basic question. Why do we even care about fillers in the first place? Why does this matter so much for your English listening journey? Well, think about it this way. The English you encounter in a classroom or in a textbook is incredibly clean and tidy. The dialogues are well organized. Every sentence is complete. Grammar is always perfect. Nobody hesitates. Nobody changes direction mid-sentence. Everyone says exactly what they mean, clearly and efficiently, with no wasted words. And that structure is great for learning the fundamental rules of the language. But it creates a very specific and serious problem. When learners take that tidy, clean classroom English and try to use it to understand the real world, where people actually talk to each other, it can feel like a completely different language. The messiness, the overlap, the half-finished sentences, the fillers, the fast rhythm, none of that was in the textbook. And so, learners who are actually quite advanced in terms of grammar and vocabulary can still struggle terribly with real-world listening. Not because they don't know enough English, but because they were never trained for the reality of how people actually speak. That is exactly the gap this episode is designed to close. So first, what even is a filler word? A filler word is a sound, a word, or a short phrase that a speaker uses while they are thinking, pausing, or transitioning from one idea to the next. These are not planned in advance. They just come out naturally. They happen automatically, almost like breathing. And almost every language on Earth has them. They're a universal feature of human speech. In English, the most common fillers are, like, you know, I mean, sort of, kind of, well, right, okay, basically, honestly, actually, and literally. Now I know what you might be thinking. Alex, those sound like real words. And you're absolutely right. They are real words. But when they're used as fillers, they don't carry meaning in the usual way. They're more like verbal pauses, like a small breath before the next idea arrives. And that's the tricky part for English learners. You hear a word you already know, like, and your brain immediately goes, oh, like means similar to something. So what does it mean here in this context? And then you spend 2 or 3 seconds trying to figure it out, and by the time you come up with an answer, the speaker has already moved on to the next 2 sentences. Sound familiar? That's what I call the filler trap. And today, we're going to help you escape it completely, and for good. Here's a really important thing to understand. Maybe the single most important thing in this whole episode. Filler words are not mistakes. I want to say that again because it matters tremendously. Filler words are not mistakes. Native speakers don't use them because they have a limited vocabulary or because they're bad at speaking English. They use them because speaking in real time is genuinely, cognitively hard. Think about everything your brain has to do simultaneously when you're talking to someone. You have to retrieve the right word from your mental vocabulary, form a grammatically correct sentence around it, consider what the listener already knows and doesn't know, decide what to say next after the current sentence, check that the other person is still following you, and manage the social dynamics of the conversation. All at the exact same time, while words are coming out of your mouth. That is a remarkable amount of multitasking, and filler words are just the brain's natural, automatic way of buying itself a tiny bit of extra processing time. Think of them like a placeholder in a conversation. The speaker is essentially saying, "Hold on, I'm still working on this, don't go anywhere, I'm not done yet." And once you genuinely understand that, fillers become much less intimidating. You stop hearing them as noise or as confusion, and you start hearing them as natural signals. Signals that real, spontaneous, human speech is happening right in front of you. Now, different types of fillers do slightly different things in conversation. Let me walk you through the main categories one by one so you know exactly what to look out for. The first type is what I'd call hesitation sounds. These are the most basic and most universal fillers in English. Are the 2 big ones. You've heard them a million times. They happen when a speaker doesn't quite know what word to say next, or isn't sure exactly how to phrase what they want to say. So they make a sound, to fill the silence while their brain catches up. That's it. That's the whole story. If you hear or while listening, all you need to do is wait. The real content is coming in about 1 second. Don't panic. Don't try to replay the sound in your head, looking for hidden meaning. Don't freeze. Just wait for the next word, and keep your attention moving forward. The filler was a pause, not information. The second type of filler is thinking phrases. These are slightly longer than or but they serve essentially the same purpose. They give the speaker a little extra time to organize their thoughts. Common thinking phrases include, like I said, kind of like, sort of like, basically, The thing is, what I'm trying to say is, what I mean is, the point is. These phrases often signal that the speaker is working through an idea and about to rephrase or clarify it. For example, someone might say, "The whole experience was, it was really challenging, but honestly, it was also incredibly rewarding." The there isn't adding any new information to the sentence. It's just the speaker giving themselves a moment to find more precise words. So when you hear these kinds of phrases, you can actually relax, because the speaker is about to make their meaning clearer. They're essentially doing some of your work for you. The third type of filler is connection words. These are fillers that help speakers move smoothly from one idea to the next. Words in short phrases like "anyway," "so," "right," "okay," "well," "all right," "now," "moving on." These are actually really useful for listeners because they signal transitions. When you hear "so" at the start of a sentence, it often means the speaker is about to summarize something or arrive at their main point. When you hear "well" at the beginning of an answer, it often signals that the response is going to be slightly nuanced or thoughtful. When you hear "anyway," it almost always means the speaker is returning to the main topic after a side comment or detour. Think of these words as road signs in a conversation. They help you navigate. Learn to recognize them, and you'll always have a sense of where you are in the overall flow of what someone is saying. The fourth type is what I call check-ins and tag questions. You've probably heard things like, "right?" "You know?" "Okay?" "Doesn't it?" "Isn't it?" tacked on to the end of sentences. These are small verbal nudges. The speaker is checking in with the listener, making sure you're following along, confirming that you agree with what they're saying, or just making sure you're still engaged. You don't need to answer these out loud in most contexts, but noticing them can tip you off that the speaker is finishing a point and is about to move on to something new. They're like little punctuation marks in spoken language. They tell you when one thought is ending and the next one is beginning. All right, so now you know the main categories, but understanding them in theory is one thing. Hearing them in real speech and handling them smoothly is something else entirely. So let's practice. I'm going to tell you a story right now. It's about a woman named Diane who had an interesting experience during her first week at a new job. As you listen, I want you to notice the filler words. Just notice them. Don't count them. Don't try to write them down. Just let your ears pick up on when they appear. And most importantly, notice that even with all those fillers present, the story still comes through completely clearly. Ready? Here we go. So, Diane had just started at this new company, right? And it was her first week. You know, that kind of scary but exciting time when everything around you is completely new and you're still figuring out where everything is and how everything works. And, her boss, this guy named Marcus, he was, like, super intense. I mean, not mean or unkind, just really focused, you know? Like, he always had a mental list of things to do, and he was always kind of rushing around the office looking like he had 100 urgent things on his mind at all times. And anyway, on like her third day, Marcus asks her to come into his office, and Diane is like, "Oh no, what did I do wrong?" She's mentally going back through everything she's done in the past 3 days, trying to figure out if she made some mistake somewhere that she doesn't even know about yet. But then Marcus sits down and he's like, "Oh no, It's nothing like that. Don't worry. I just wanted to say, um, you're doing a genuinely great job. Honestly, the whole team is, we're really glad you're here, and we're glad you joined us. And Diane was, I mean, she was honestly just completely shocked by that. She hadn't expected to hear something like that, especially not in her very first week. And it was kind of this turning point for her, you know? Like she went from being super nervous and constantly second-guessing every small decision she made to just feeling like, okay, I can do this. I belong here. I'm going to be just fine. And yeah, that's her story. Simple, but, kind of meaningful when you think about it, right? Okay, how did that feel? Did you follow the story? I'm pretty confident you did, even with all those fillers woven right through the middle of it. And that's exactly the point. You didn't need to understand every and every you know and every like to know what happened. The key information was there throughout. Diane started a new job. Her boss Marcus called her in on day 3. He told her she was doing great and that the team was happy to have her. She felt relieved and much more confident about being there. That's the story. The fillers were all around it, floating in between the meaningful words, but they didn't hide anything. They didn't block anything. They were just part of the texture of natural, honest speech. Now I want you to think about this very carefully. If you had mentally stopped at every and every you know to ask yourself, wait, what does that word mean in this specific context? You would have completely lost the story. You would have spent all your energy chasing fillers, and none of your energy understanding the actual narrative. But because you let those words pass by, because you kept your attention moving forward through the whole story, you got everything, every important detail. That is the skill. That is what we're training right now. The ability to hear fillers, recognize them instantly for what they are, and let them go without disrupting your focus on the meaning underneath them. It sounds simple when I describe it, but it takes real practice to make it automatic. And that's exactly what we're building here, right now, in this episode. Let me go deeper into one specific filler that I really want to talk about, because it causes more confusion than almost any other. And that's the word like. This one deserves special attention. It's probably the most frequently used filler in modern conversational English, especially among younger speakers and in informal contexts. But it's also one of the most confusing fillers for learners, because like has so many other different meanings. It can be a verb, I like coffee. It can be a preposition showing similarity. She looks like her mother. It can introduce a comparison. He ran like the wind. And it can be a filler. I was like, so tired today. 4 completely different grammatical functions wrapped in one tiny word. No wonder learners get confused. So how do you figure out when like is a filler versus when it's doing real grammatical work? The practical answer is pay attention to context and position. When like appears right before a verb or an adjective to introduce a feeling, a reaction, or a state, it's almost always a filler. She was like completely shocked. He's like totally confused right now. I was like so nervous before the presentation. In each of these cases, like isn't telling you that anything resembles anything else. It's just a conversational placeholder before an emotion or a description. You can replace it with very or really, or simply remove it entirely, and the meaning stays exactly the same. She was completely shocked. He's totally confused right now. I was so nervous before the presentation. See? Same meaning, cleaner sentence, no filler. But when like appears between two things being compared, this coffee tastes like chocolate. She dresses like a professional. My new phone looks like the old one. It's carrying real semantic weight. It's telling you about similarity or resemblance, and removing it would break the meaning of the sentence. So the mental test is simple. If you can take like out and the sentence still makes perfect sense, it's a filler. If removing it breaks the sentence or changes what it means, it's doing real grammatical work. Now let me tell you about a student I worked with whose experience might sound very familiar to you. His name is Raymond. Raymond was at a B1 level, similar to many of you listening right now, and in many ways his English was actually quite strong. His reading comprehension was excellent. He could work through English articles and understand them without too much difficulty. He had a solid vocabulary. His grammar was reasonably accurate when he had time to think. But the moment someone started speaking to him quickly and naturally, he would freeze up completely. He described the feeling to me like this: "Alex, it's like I can hear the words, but I can't hold on to them. They come too fast, and I lose the sentence before I've even finished processing it." And I asked him, "When you lose the thread, where does it usually break down?" And he thought about it carefully and said, "There's always this word or this sound I don't recognize, and I stop right there, trying to figure out what it means, and by the time I give up and move on, I'm already 2 or 3 sentences behind." And I said, "Raymond, let me guess. A lot of the time, the word you're stopping on, it's isn't it? Or like? Or, you know?" And he laughed, because, yes, that was exactly it, almost every time. He was treating filler words like important vocabulary items that he was failing to understand. He was stopping on things that didn't need to be stopped on. And once we worked together to train him to recognize fillers for what they are, and simply let them pass, his listening comprehension improved dramatically in a matter of weeks. Not months. Weeks. The same transformation is available to you. Now, let's talk about how you actually train this skill. How do you teach your brain to spot fillers instantly and let them pass without disrupting your focus? There are 4 strategies I want to teach you today, and they all work together. The first strategy is passive recognition. This is the simplest one and also the most fundamental. You just listen to a lot of natural conversational English, podcasts like this one, YouTube videos, TV shows, movies, anything with real informal speech, and every time you hear a filler, you simply notice it. That's all. You don't stop. You don't analyze it. You don't write it down. You just make a small, quiet mental note. Ah, that's a filler. And you keep going. The more consistently you do this, the faster your brain learns to automatically detect and filter out fillers in real time. Think of it like training any other pattern recognition skill. Repetition and exposure build automaticity, and once that recognition is automatic, fillers stop being obstacles and become invisible. You just hear through them directly to the meaning. The second strategy is focused re-listening. For this one, you pick a short audio clip, maybe 2 to 3 minutes long, and you listen to it twice in a row. The first time, you just listen normally. Don't try to catch fillers. Just try to understand the general meaning and the overall story. The second time, you listen specifically to find fillers. Count them if you want. Notice where they appear in sentences, at the beginning, in the middle, at the end. Notice what comes right before them and right after them. Notice how the rhythm of the speaker's voice changes when a filler appears. This targeted second-pass listening builds a kind of dual awareness. You can hold the content in your mind while simultaneously noticing the structure of the speech. A lot of learners skip this kind of deliberate, focused practice, but it makes a genuinely large difference because it trains your brain to do two things at once: follow the meaning and recognize the patterns. The third strategy is shadowing. Shadowing is one of the most powerful language learning techniques available to you. The idea is simple. You listen to a speaker and repeat what they say almost simultaneously, like an echo that's just a fraction of a second behind. And here's the part that many people don't expect. When you shadow, you include the fillers. You say along with the speaker. You say like along with them. You say along with them. This might feel a bit awkward at first, almost silly even. But it is remarkably effective. Because when you produce fillers with your own voice, when you feel them in your mouth and hear them in your ears, they completely lose their strangeness. They become familiar. They become part of the natural sound and feel of spoken English. And once something feels familiar, it stops triggering confusion or anxiety. It becomes automatic. That's the power of shadowing. The fourth strategy I want to share is meaning mapping. This is a slightly more active and analytical technique. When you hear a sentence that's packed with fillers, try to quickly mentally strip them out and ask yourself, what is the actual core message here? So, for example, if you hear, it was, kind of like a really, genuinely interesting experience. The meaning map is simply, it was a genuinely interesting experience. That's it. Everything else was packaging. Strip the packaging away and find the content inside. At first, you'll have to do this consciously and deliberately. But with practice, your brain starts doing it automatically and at speed. You'll stop consciously hearing the fillers and start hearing the meaning directly. It's like learning to see through static on a television to the picture that's playing beneath it. All right, let's do another listening practice. This time I'm going to give you a conversation between two friends, Sophia and James, who haven't seen each other in about a year and run into each other at a coffee shop. I want you to listen and try to identify the most important piece of news that each person shares. As you listen, try to apply what we've been practicing. Let the fillers flow past. Stay focused on the meaning. Ready? Here we go. Sophia! Oh my gosh, it's been forever. James! I know. Like, how long has it been? A year? Maybe more? Definitely more than a year. I think the last time was at that birthday dinner thing, right? Oh yeah. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so, how are you? What's been going on? Good, good. It's been kind of a crazy year, honestly. I actually changed jobs. Wait, really? Yeah. I was at that marketing firm downtown, and I needed a change, you know? Like, I wasn't growing there anymore. I felt kind of stuck. Yeah, I totally get that feeling. So where are you now? I'm at this small startup. It's, it's a lot of work, honestly, and sometimes stressful. But I, I actually love it. Like, I feel, I feel like I'm actually making a difference, you know? That's amazing. Like, that's exactly what you always wanted. Yeah. Yeah, it really is. What about you, though? How's everything? Oh, okay. So actually, this is kind of a big thing. I'm going back to school. No way. I know. Like, I never thought I'd be saying that. But um, I've been thinking about it for a while, and I mean, the time feels right, you know? What for? Um, Education. I want to be a teacher. Like, actually become a teacher. Oh, James, I mean, that's so perfect for you. You're going to be so good at that. Huh? Thank you. I hope so. I mean, I'm a little nervous, honestly. But yeah, I'm really excited. You'll be wonderful. We need to actually sit down and catch up properly soon. Yes, absolutely. This weekend? Yes. It's a plan. Okay. What were the two big pieces of news? Sophia changed jobs and is now at a startup that she genuinely loves, even though it's more demanding. And James is going back to school to become a teacher. Those are the two key takeaways from that whole conversation. And yes, that conversation was absolutely packed with fillers. Like, honestly, I mean, they were everywhere. But the two central pieces of information were completely clear throughout. That's what we're aiming for. Not perfect comprehension of every word. Clear comprehension of the essential meaning. Now let's talk about something that a lot of language teachers don't address, and that's the emotional and psychological side of listening to fast natural speech. Because here is the honest truth. When you're at B1 level, and someone starts speaking to you quickly and casually, with lots of fillers and connected sounds and informal vocabulary, it can feel overwhelming. It can feel like you're constantly missing things, like you're always running a few steps behind. And that feeling of anxiety or inadequacy actually makes your comprehension worse, not better. Because when you're anxious, your brain is dividing its attention between managing the anxiety and processing the language. You're only giving part of your cognitive resources to the actual listening task. Filler words can trigger this anxiety in a very specific and predictable way. You're listening along, things are going reasonably well, and then suddenly you hear something you don't recognize or can't decode, and your brain immediately goes into alert mode. What was that? Did I miss something critical? Should I ask them to repeat? Am I falling behind now? And then you spend a second or two in that alert state, and by the time you come back to the conversation, the speaker has moved on, and you've missed a full sentence of real content. Not because the filler was important, it wasn't, but because your panicked reaction to it stole your focus away at exactly the wrong moment. So, one of the most valuable things you can develop as a listener is what I'd describe as a quiet mind. A quiet mind means you've trained yourself to respond to confusion or uncertainty with curiosity instead of panic. Instead of, oh no, what was that? You think, I didn't quite catch that one. Let me see if the context makes it clear in the next few seconds. And most of the time, genuinely, truly, most of the time, if you just keep listening for a few more seconds, the meaning becomes clear on its own. This is called listening for gist, and it's how native speakers handle real conversation every single day. They don't stop the conversation every time they miss a word. They trust the context. They trust the overall flow. They fill in gaps with logic and inference. And you can absolutely learn to do this too. It's not a talent you're born with. It's a skill you develop through practice. Now, let me add something interesting from a linguistic research perspective. because I think this will actually change how you think about fillers. Researchers who study spoken language, linguists, phoneticians, communication scientists, have found that fillers serve some genuinely specific communicative functions beyond just filling time. For example, studies have shown that when a speaker uses or before a noun in a sentence, it's often a signal to the listener that a less predictable or less common word is about to come. In other words, speakers unconsciously use more fillers before words that are harder to predict. And listeners, even without being aware of it, actually pick up on this signal and prepare themselves to hear something unexpected. Isn't that remarkable? The filler isn't just noise. It's actually a tiny piece of real communication, a cue that something less obvious is on its way. Another thing researchers have found is that fillers help regulate turn-taking in conversations. When you're talking and you use or it signals to your conversation partner, "I'm not finished yet. Don't jump in. I'm still working through this thought." Without fillers, every small pause in a conversation would look like an open invitation for the other person to start speaking. With fillers, speakers can hold the floor while they think. This is partly why awkward silences feel uncomfortable in conversation. They look like invitations that nobody is accepting. Let's do one more listening exercise. This time, it's a monologue from a woman named Priya. She's talking about something she recently learned about food and nutrition. I want you to listen and summarize her main point in one sentence in your head. Don't worry about every detail. Just get the central idea she's trying to communicate. Ready? So, I've been reading a lot about nutrition lately, right? Like food and health and all of that stuff. And I was kind of surprised to find out that, a lot of things we think we know about eating healthy are, they're kind of outdated. Like, for example, okay, so, a lot of people still think you have to eat 3 big meals every day. But actually, some research suggests that eating smaller amounts more often it might be better for your metabolism. It keeps your blood sugar more stable, and you don't get that really intense hunger that makes you overeat. But at the same time, and this is the interesting part, some other research says that actually, intermittent fasting is equally effective for a lot of people. So it's kind of like, what I'm taking from all of this is that, honestly, the best approach is kind of just, the one that works for your own body and your own lifestyle. There's no single perfect answer for everyone. And I think that's actually kind of reassuring, What was Priya's main point? She said that a lot of common beliefs about eating healthy may be outdated. That different eating approaches, like frequent small meals versus intermittent fasting, can both work well, and that the best approach is simply whatever works for you personally. She found that reassuring, and honestly, so do I. Did you get the gist of that? Even with all those ums and likes and you-knows all over the place? I think you did. And that's real listening skill happening in real time. All right, let's do our final listening practice for today. This is a phone call between 2 work colleagues named Noel and Bee. They're checking in on a shared project. Listen for the answer to 3 questions. What project are they working on? What is the problem? And what do they plan to do about it? Hey, Bee, do you have a second right now? Yeah, of course. What's up? So, um, I've been looking over the report for the Henderson project, and I kind of found something that um, might be an issue. Okay, like, what kind of issue are we talking about? So, the timeline we submitted to them, um, I think we might be off. Like, we said we'd have the first phase done by the end of the month, right? But with all the delays we've had, I'm thinking it's going to be, I don't know, maybe like 2 weeks after that? Oh, okay. Um, so we're looking at about 2 weeks behind what we told them? Yeah, kind of. I mean, it's not a disaster, but I, you know, I didn't want to just let it sit there and say nothing. Like, they need to know what's happening. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right to flag it. Okay, so, should we call them directly? Or should we send an email first? I was thinking, um, maybe email first, just so they have something clear in writing, you know? And then we can follow up with a call if they have questions. That makes a lot of sense. Okay. Um, do you want me to draft the email or, oh, would you? I mean, I can review it after and suggest any changes, but you're honestly way better at this kind of communication than I am. Ah, okay. I'm happy to do it. So I'll get a draft together and send it to you, like, by end of day? Perfect. That works great. And, B? I just, I feel kind of bad about this, you know? We really did try our best to hit that original deadline. Noel, honestly, these things happen in projects, you know? Like, we did what we could with what we had, and we're being upfront about it instead of waiting until it's worse. That's what matters. They'll appreciate the transparency. Yeah, yeah, you're right. Thanks so much, B. Of course, we've got this. Talk soon. Bye. Okay. 3 questions. What project? The Henderson project with a multi-phase timeline. What's the problem? They're running about 2 weeks behind schedule on the first phase. What's the plan? B drafts an email to the client explaining the delay. Noel reviews it, and they may follow up with a call if needed. How many did you get? 2 out of 3? 3 out of 3? Either way, you are doing genuine real-world English listening right now. And it's working. Let me share a few practical tips before we wrap up. Things you can start doing right away, starting today. Tip 1. Don't pause the audio when you don't understand something. I know this is tempting. Pausing feels safer. But every time you pause, you break the natural flow and you train yourself to depend on stopping. Real conversations don't have pause buttons. So when you're practicing at home, try to keep the audio running even through confusing moments. Your brain will adapt to continuous speech faster than you think. Tip 2. Listen before you read. If there are subtitles or a transcript available, listen first with the audio only. Then check the transcript after. This forces your ears to do the real work instead of letting your eyes carry the load. Tip 3. Keep a 1-week filler journal. Every time a filler trips you up or catches your attention during the week, write it down along with a note about what was happening around it. By the end of the week, you'll know exactly which fillers are your personal weak spots. Tip 4. Produce fillers yourself when you speak in English. Use when you're thinking. Use you know when you want the listener to follow along. Using fillers makes your English sound more natural and deepens your familiarity with them from both directions, speaking and listening. And tip 5. Use this episode as a model. Listen to it again. Notice my fillers. Notice where they appear. Notice that even in a prepared educational podcast, natural speech patterns come through, and the meaning always survives them. Let me also say a word about patience, because I think it's genuinely important. Learning to understand natural English at real speed, with fillers and connected speech and regional accents and fast rhythm, is not something that clicks into place in a single week. It's a gradual process. It unfolds over time. And it requires a certain kind of patient, compassionate relationship with yourself. There will be sessions where you feel like you're flying. You understand almost everything. It feels almost effortless. And there will be sessions where it feels like you've somehow gone backward. You can't catch anything. You feel lost. You wonder if you're ever going to get there. Both of those sessions are completely normal. Both are part of the process. The only thing that matters is showing up consistently and putting in the listening time, day after day. Because language learning works through accumulation. Every hour of real English you absorb makes the next hour a little easier. It's as simple and as challenging as that. Let me do a complete recap of everything we covered today, because this was a long and detailed episode, and I want to make sure it all stays with you. We started with a hook, a quick test to show you right away what natural speech with fillers sounds and feels like. We defined filler words as sounds, words, or phrases that speakers use while thinking, pausing, or transitioning. We went through the four main types. Hesitation sounds like and thinking phrases like I mean, and, connection words like so and well, and check-in tags like right and okay. We established clearly that fillers are not mistakes. They are a natural, universal feature of all real human speech, present in every language on Earth. We looked closely at the word like and built a simple practical test for knowing when it's a filler versus when it's doing real grammatical work. We heard Raymond's story and understood how identifying your specific filler blind spots can lead to rapid improvement. We went through 4 core strategies: passive recognition, focused re-listening, shadowing, and meaning mapping. We talked about the emotional and psychological dimension, the anxiety that fast natural speech can trigger, and how to develop a quiet mind that responds with curiosity instead of panic. We learned something fascinating from linguistic research about how fillers actually serve real communicative functions in conversation. We did 4 full listening practices together: Diane's workplace story, Sophia and James running into each other, Priya's nutrition monologue, and Noel and Bee's project phone call. And we covered 5 practical, actionable tips you can start using today. That is a lot. That is genuinely a lot. And you made it through all of it. I am proud of you for sticking with this whole episode. That persistence, the decision to keep listening even when it gets a little challenging or a little long, that is exactly the mindset that produces real, lasting language progress. Not talent, not some magical shortcut, just consistent, intentional effort over time. Here are your action steps for the coming week. 1. Listen to at least 10 minutes of natural conversational English every day. Podcasts, shows, videos, anything with real informal speech. 2. Practice passive recognition every day. Whatever you're listening to, just notice the fillers and let them pass. 3. Try shadowing at least 3 times this week. Pick a short clip, press play, and repeat along with the speaker, including the fillers. 4. Have at least 1 real or practice conversation in English this week, even if it's just talking to yourself out loud about your day. 5. Come back and listen to this episode again. I promise it will feel different the second time. You'll be more relaxed, more confident, and you'll notice things you missed the first time. That's it for today's episode of English in Fluency. I'm your host, Alex, and it has been a genuine pleasure spending this time with you today. If this episode helped you, if you feel more confident about handling fillers than you did when we started, please share this episode with a friend or a classmate who is also working on their English listening skills. That kind of sharing is how this channel grows and how we help more learners. You can find English in Fluency wherever you listen to podcasts. Hit subscribe so you never miss a new episode. And if you have questions, topics you'd love to hear covered, or you just want to share how your listening practice is going, leave a comment or send us a message. I genuinely read everything, and I love hearing from listeners. Remember this: fluency is not a destination you arrive at all at once. It is a journey that you walk one step at a time. And every time you listen to real English, every time you push through a confusing moment instead of giving up, every time you choose to practice instead of scrolling past, you are moving forward. Even on the hard days, even when progress feels invisible, it is happening. Keep going. Keep showing up. Keep listening. And I will see you in the very next episode. Take care of yourself, and I'll talk to you soon.